McDonald's doesn't make most of its money from burgers. In fact, if they stopped selling food tomorrow, the corporation would still be one of the wealthiest entities on the planet. The real money comes from something far more boring: land. I'm Lena Brooks. I analyze the financial systems that quietly decide who gets rich and who doesn't. Most people look at the surface, the fast food, the marketing, the toys. I look at the system underneath. To understand financial literacy in 2026, you have to look at the dirt underneath the golden arches. Today, we're exposing the hidden mechanisms that turned a simple burger joint into a $40 billion land monopoly. Because in the world of money, every fortune hides a cost. To understand how this happened, we have to look at the historical data most people ignore. In the mid-1950s, Ray Kroc was struggling. He had a vision for a global brand, but he was trapped in what I call the high-income poverty trap. He had massive sales, but the margins on food were so thin that the corporation was nearly bankrupt. He was rich on paper, but broke in reality. That was until Harry Sonneborn, the first president of McDonald's, walked into his office and told him, "Ray, you're not in the food business, you're in the real estate business." This was the ultimate system reveal. The strategy was a masterclass in hidden wealth mechanisms. Instead of just taking a small royalty fee from burger sales, McDonald's began buying the land and the buildings where the restaurants sat. They became the landlord for their own franchisees. Think about the genius of this. By owning the land, they didn't just control the brand, they controlled the physical space. They successfully offloaded every operational risk, the labor disputes, the food waste, the rising price of beef, onto the franchisee. Meanwhile, the corporation kept the only asset that was guaranteed to appreciate: the dirt. Let's look at the financial data that usually stays buried in corporate filings. McDonald's Corporation currently owns or controls the land and buildings for roughly 45% of its global locations. At nearly all of the remaining 55%, they own the building even if they lease the ground. This isn't just a side project. This is a real estate portfolio valued at over $40 billion. To put that into perspective, most restaurant chains struggle to survive more than 5 years. They're vulnerable to shifts in taste and economic downturns. But McDonald's has built a wall around their wealth. Even if a specific location fails, the corporation doesn't lose. They still own the prime corner lot at a busy intersection. They can lease it to a bank, a pharmacy, or another competitor. This is the real power of having cash and assets that nobody explains. They aren't betting on your hunger, they're betting on the permanence of prime American real estate. Imagine you're a high achiever. You followed the standard path, worked hard, and saved $1.5 million. You decide to buy a McDonald's franchise because you want financial freedom and a profitable side hustle. You sign the 20-year agreement. You're there at 5 a.m., managing 40 employees, dealing with broken equipment, and rising food costs. On paper, your store makes $2.7 million a year. You feel successful. You look successful. But then the reality sets in. After you pay for the food, the labor, the utilities, the insurance, and the royalty fee, you have to write the biggest check of all: the rent. Because you don't own the dirt. You are a tenant in your own business. This is the definition of being rich on paper, broke in reality. You are managing a multi-million-dollar operation, but your net profit margin is razor thin. If the minimum wage goes up, your profit drops. If the price of beef spikes, your profit drops. But the corporation's rent check? That stays the same. You have bought yourself a high-stress job, while the corporation has secured a passive income stream from your sweat. Why do smart people fall for this? It's human psychology. We are conditioned to chase prestige. We want to be the owner of a world-famous brand. McDonald's understands this money mindset perfectly. They sell you the prestige of the golden arches. They sell you the dream of entrepreneurship. But as I've explained in my analysis of why looking poor is so important, Real wealth isn't about the sign on the door, it's about who owns the system underneath. They sell you prestige, but they keep the power. True financial literacy is realizing that most opportunities offered to the public are designed to make the system owner rich, not the participant. The corporation doesn't want to fry the chicken or flip the burgers. That's the unsexy work. They want to be the ones who collect the dividend-like payments from the land while you do the heavy lifting. They've offloaded the risk and kept the land. To truly understand the depth of this, we have to look at the percentage rent clause. Most landlords just want a fixed monthly payment, not McDonald's. In their contracts, they often stipulate that the franchisee pays a base rent or a percentage of gross sales, whichever is higher. Think about the math of that financial data. If the restaurant is struggling, McDonald's still gets its base rent. If the restaurant is a massive success, McDonald's gets a raise. They have created a heads I win, tails you lose scenario. This is a hidden mechanism of wealth that provides a hedge against inflation. As food prices rise, sales numbers go up, and the corporation's rent check grows automatically without them ever having to raise prices or touch a spatula. Here is another layer of the system reveal. McDonald's uses its massive corporate credit rating to borrow money at incredibly low interest rates. They use that cheap debt to buy land. Then they charge the franchisee rent that is significantly higher than the mortgage payment. Essentially, the franchisee is paying off the corporation's mortgage while also providing them a profit on top of it. After 20 years, the mortgage is gone, the franchisee is exhausted, and the corporation owns a prime piece of real estate for free. This is the real power of having cash and credit that regular people are never taught in school. If you're starting with $0 in 2026, don't try to out-hustle a billion-dollar monopoly at their own game. Learn their math. Stop buying things that require your constant physical presence just to pay someone else's mortgage. Whether you are on a debt-free journey or building $1 million net worth, you must adopt the unsexy habits of wealth building. Focus on assets, not appearances. Don't buy a business that manages people. Buy a business that manages assets. Aim for index funds, ETFs, or real estate you actually control. You may need 50% less to retire than you think if you cut the overhead that feeds the prestige trap. Before you invest, ask, who is the landlord here? McDonald's became a giant by being a disciplined, unsexy landlord, not just a flashy burger joint. They chose stability over hype. We see this everywhere, from the tech platforms that take a cut of every digital sale to the real estate giants that control our cities. The goal isn't to be the hardest worker in the room, it's to be the owner of the room itself. Stop being a regular person who just sees the burger. Start being a person who sees the system. Audit your life. Are you building your own land, or are you just paying rent to a system that sells you prestige? The lesson is clear. McDonald's proved that the best way to win the game of money is to own the board. While the rest of the world is fighting over the price of the menu, the wise are quietly acquiring the property. The people who own the land write the rules. Everyone else just pays to play. I'm Lena Brooks. Stick to the data and stop buying the illusion. Every fortune hides a cost.